Welcome all to the academic advising overview. And we're going to wait for a few more minutes just to let everyone filter in. But please also note that this is being recorded. Okay, I think that we're just about ready to get started. Hello all, thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Nicole Morantonio, and I am the director of the Academic Advising Resource Center and also the director of the first year seminar program. I'm joined here with Andrea Vest, who is the assistant director of the AARC.
Hi, everyone.
And we just wanted to start it off by welcoming you and just to say we're really excited for you to join us at the University of Richmond. And so with the time that we have tonight, we have an overview of academic advising, some tips to get us started, and to give you a sense of the process, not only for academic advising over the summer, but then also thinking ahead toward the fall. Before we get started, though, we just want to remind you to put any questions that you have in the Q&A, and we'll be keeping an eye out on those as we move through the presentation tonight. So again, just to begin, we want to give you a sense of this session, just to give you an overview of academic advising, to map out the registration process for fall semester, which we're sure you're very curious about and wanting to know more, to provide tips for selecting classes, and then of course, just to provide you with some additional resources and contacts should you have questions after our session tonight. So first, just to start off, we want to give you a sense of what an academic advisor is. And so first and foremost, we have academic advisors all across campus who are dedicated faculty and staff members interested and invested not only in seeing your progress toward graduation, making sure that you're completing requirements and so forth, but also someone who's invested in your personal development. An academic advisor, as we see it at the University of Richmond, is someone who really aims to get a better sense of your goals, whether those are career goals or life goals, and really work with you to develop a plan for achieving those goals or realizing those goals over your time at the university. Academic advisors are resources. These should be your points of contact should you have questions about anything academic related and otherwise, so that your academic advisor can connect you. Again, so it's a point of contact, someone who can refer you to other offices, other people, and make connections where they need to be made. And then finally, we see an academic advisor as someone who's a sounding board, someone who can answer questions, someone who's not necessarily going to tell you what classes to take, but someone who's going to ask you additional questions to learn about your interests and goals. So now that you know a bit about what an academic advisor is, we want to share where you might find an academic advisor on our campus. So as I mentioned, academic advisors are all across campus. They're housed in academic departments, so all across the university, but also in a variety of offices, student development offices on our campus. You may see them in career services. Our academic advisors could be in the Center for Civic Engagement or the chaplaincy, housing. You may even have your academic advisor be the provost. So our academic advisors really kind of range across campus and are housed in different places, have a variety of expertise, but are all trained to be, again, as we've mentioned, that point of contact, that resource for you. Now, you're likely wondering at this stage, what will academic advising look like my first year? So in this stage in the summer, we have really 3 points of contact for you throughout this registration process. You'll start with the peer advisors, and your peer advisors will be reaching out to you this week. Likely, if you haven't heard from them yet, you should by the end of this week. And those will be peers, students who have gone through the registration process and who are there to work with you as you create your plans. And we'll talk a little bit more about that shortly. So you'll have your peer advisors working with you really over the next few weeks, up until July 1, when those preference plans are due. Then in July, in mid-July, more specifically mid to late July, you'll be hearing from your summer advisor. And that's a faculty or staff member who'll be working with you as you take that next step and preparing for self-registration. And then finally, the Academic Advising Resource Center. That's us. So as we mentioned, we're here as the AARC to support you. So should you have any questions, certainly over the course of the summer, but of course, as well, when you arrive on campus, know that you can always reach out to us via email, or when you're on campus, you can swing by our office too. In fall and spring, students will have their academic advisor, who may or may not be the same person who was their summer advisor, as well as us, of course, the AARC as your mainstay points of contact. You then may be wondering what academic advising might look like after your first year. So after major declaration, all students are reassigned a quote unquote major advisor, who's a faculty member who's housed in and affiliated with your declared majors department or program. So that's basically the various stages of the academic advising process here at the University of Richmond. And at this point, while you have a bit of an overview, you're probably wondering more about the kind of nuts and bolts of the immediate registration and immediate advising process. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Andrea Vest, who will share more with you about what to expect now.
Thank you, Nicole. Okay, so what do you need to know right now? In July, you'll be pre-registered for at least 2 courses. That's one FYS and another course. Athletes and Richmond or Bonner Scholars will be pre-registered for 4 to 4.5 units, and Endeavor students will be pre-registered for their fall Endeavor course, which could be an FYS or another. Then in August, students will self-register for the rest of your course schedule. Our timeline this summer looks like this. This week, everyone should hear from either their peer advisor or their navigator if they're in Endeavor. Week of June 20th, your peer advisor and navigator will help you create your preference plans. Remember, that's one first-year seminar plan and then a second plan with other courses that you'd like to take. July 1st, those preference plans are due in Banner. Then the week of July 11th, your peer advisor or navigator will introduce you to your summer advisor. The following week, you should hear from your summer advisor requesting an appointment. So please watch your UR email inbox for those messages. Advising appointments will be made the week of July 25th, and then August 3rd at 9 o'clock Eastern Time, you can log into Banner and self-register for the remaining courses in your fall schedule. The typical first semester schedule is going to look like this. Everyone has to have a first-year seminar. You might have 1 or 2 field of studies or prerequisites for an intended major or an area that you'd like to pursue. And you may have 1 or 2 exploratory courses, depending on how you've decided to manage your field of study. Everyone should also have a Well 100 section on their schedule. And your first semester schedule should really be a good balance of how you learn best. If you're not a morning person, I do not recommend you register for 7, 8 a.m. courses. I also don't recommend that you only take courses on Mondays and Wednesdays. Spread them out, give yourself some variety, and make sure that you are thinking about how you study best. Okay, the registrar went over this at the 6 o'clock webinar, but real quick, when you're creating your plan, remember that you're going into Banner Web, you're going into the student profile, and you're going to plan ahead. For pre-registration, please create 2 plans. Label your first plan FYS plan, and your second plan, Plan 2. Your Plan 2 should then be marked preferred.
Okay, so at this point, we also wanted to ask some questions. We had some probably frequently asked questions. And so we figured that would be a great place to start. So you may be wondering, what do I do if? I don't know where to start selecting classes. And so if you find yourself in this category or in this camp, this is actually something we want to recognize and acknowledge upfront, that it can be really overwhelming to start selecting classes at this stage, especially when you may not necessarily be sure where to begin. So what we would recommend as just a place, as just a point of departure, might be to think about, to ask yourself a few questions. First might be, what subject or subjects really interested me in high school? Is there a topic that is something that I might be interested in learning more about? Another question might be, what's something I've never heard of before? So I'll say from personal experience, I teach in the Rhetoric and Communication Studies department. And I can say most high schools don't have a rhetoric department. And so a lot of students find our major just by taking a class by chance. Maybe it's something that just sounds interesting or just a curiosity. So maybe, again, can look at what are some of the subjects, some of the topics that have been of interest to you, and then maybe what are some of the things that you've never heard of that you might be interested in pursuing further. So we would recommend just starting there to kind of dive into that initial course catalog.
I would add to that, when we're talking about building your plans for the July 1st deadline, if you have taken any IP or AP or IB exams, I recommend you not include those classes in your plan. We will receive AP and IB scores right after those plans are due. The registrar expects them to start rolling in July 5th. So if you've taken an exam, hold off on registering for a class that might be comparable. Okay, so next question. What if I don't hear from my peer advisor or my summer advisor? Don't panic. Please reach out to either Dr. Morantonio or myself in the AARC, and we will make sure that you are taken care of.
So what do you do if you don't have an intended major yet? Fear not. As a liberal arts institution and as a place that is really invested in helping you explore, this is the perfect opportunity to take classes that, again, might be of interest. So if you don't have an intended major yet, you may want to take a course that might fulfill a general education requirement. You may, again, take something that just sounds interesting. And ultimately, over the course of your first and second year, you'll find that subject, that topic that really speaks to you. But it shouldn't be a cause for concern, certainly at this stage, because all first year students come in as undeclared. So even though some may have an intended major, others might not, but everyone's in the same place where you begin. So you have lots of freedom to explore and lots of possibilities. And certainly our general education curriculum is designed to help you do precisely that, to explore and to really discover topics and disciplines that will ultimately be a source of passion for you.
Okay, so that takes us to our next question. What if I don't get my first choice class? That's okay. I will tell you that very few of us are going to get our first choice schedule. I will also tell you that you need 35 units to graduate, so there's plenty of time to get done the things that you need to get done. This is a great time to explore. Try something new, take a chance on something that you may be unsure of. Remember, registration is happening in phases. So during the planning pre-registration phase, you will have a chance during self-registration to pick up some classes that you would consider a first choice. If after self-registration, your schedule isn't ideal or isn't perfect, things change. Even before school starts in August, seats are shifting, banner is updating every evening, and changes can be made to your schedule. So if you don't like what you were pre-registered for, perhaps that can be changed. But be open to trying something new and exploring at this point.
And the last question that we wanted to include on here was, what if you're not happy with your first year seminar topic? And so just to kind of echo what was said, you will have during the self-registration process the opportunity to move classes around. But certainly I would say with the first year seminars in particular, because there are a finite number of classes and certainly it's constrained by the number of students in the first year class. Something that we always recommend is staying in your first year seminar until you can be sure that you have a seat in another class that you would like to switch into. So during self-registration, the wait lists will become available for the first year seminars. And at that point, you can certainly add yourself to a wait list if you aren't able to immediately enroll. And certainly movement will happen, but we would certainly recommend not immediately trying to swap out of a first year seminar, especially given that while on your preference plans, we are advising that you list 20 first year seminars, that during that self-registration time when there is movement, you just wouldn't want to be in a position where, say, you lose a first year seminar and may not be able to pick one up as easily. So there is possibility for movement, but we would also just encourage you to be cautious about just dropping a course immediately. Okay. And so again, we just wanted to provide our information. Please do feel free to reach out, and then we'll open up for questions and we'll see what's in the Q&A and if there are any other issues that want to. Okay. There we go.
There is
Okay,
a
so
question. Oh, go ahead, Nicole.
Oh, no, please.
I was just going to say there is a question. Ava would like to know, she'd like to audition for the orchestra. Should she include orchestra in her plan, even though she won't audition until the beginning of the year?
So this would be a great question to reach out to the music department, just to get some clarification on auditions and timing, just because you would want to make sure that if you are able to register for it, that you would be able to. So I'd say if there is a limit on the course right now, you likely won't be able to register until the auditions take place. Okay, I see a question in the chat for what is a 0.5 credit class? So this is a great question. So as you may know, almost all, and I'll say almost all of our courses at the university are standard as 1 unit. There are a few exceptions. So some of our language courses, the intensives 121 or 221 are 2 units, but there are courses that are 0.5 units. They're few and far between, but they do exist. Many of them, there may be, say, music classes, so music lessons that are 0.5 units. There are independent studies or other courses that are 0.5 units. But essentially, it's a course that doesn't meet the same amount of time as a traditional 1 unit course. So for instance, some of the ensembles or other, again, music courses may be a 0.5 unit.
There's a question about Banner Web. Maya, Banner Web for students versus staff and faculty, it looks slightly different. You should have student registration menu that you should be going into for the planning tab. If you have trouble finding that, please reach out to us. You can email me, I'll be in the office tomorrow, and I can help walk you through that. Okay, and then AP scores, link to College Board, yes. Should you switch your email to your UR email or your personal email? Yeah, anything connected to your high school email address at this point, you probably want to update either to a personal or to your UR email address. The Common App that you sent us, if you haven't created your UR email address or created your account, if we don't have an up-to-date email address, it's possible we may not be able to contact you. So by all means, start switching out those old high school email addresses.
We also see a question here about the language placement test. So a question about using the language placement test versus using an AP score. This is also a great question. I would definitely refer you to the New Spiders page, where you can see specifically, one, language placement tests can be scheduled through the Global Studio. So through New Spiders, you'll see the particular contacts for who to reach out to should you need to schedule a language placement exam. If you have taken an AP course and are awaiting a score, we also have on the New Spiders page the listing of how courses or what the transfer transfer credit would look like. So whether you would place out or whether you would receive credit for that language. So it does depend on the score you earn, as well as the particular language test that you take. Are there other questions here? Again, we recognize this can be an overwhelming process to start off, but we really are looking forward to working with you and really working with you through the process and its several stages before you arrive here at the university.
Lisa asked a good question about how many days a week Spanish 151 meets. I want to say that's 5 days a week, but I would have to check Banner.
So for Spanish 151, that's the advanced beginner. So I believe that is,
I'll check I'll
Yeah.
go out and check real quick.
while we're checking on that question, I'm going to respond to another question that's currently in the chat with respect to the timing of your plans. So there's a question here. Is there any benefit to creating our plans sooner? Or does everyone have equal access to get into the classes we request? So there isn't, so all plans will need to be in by July 1st, but there isn't any benefit to completing the plan sooner. So you do have the opportunity to kind of go back in and tweak your plan up until July 1. So everyone will have equal chances to get into the classes you request as long as those plans are in by July 1.
Okay, so apparently since I'm hosting the webinar, I can't do anything but host a webinar, so it won't allow me to check Banner Quick. But Lisa, I'm pretty sure if I recall, if you're looking at the course lookup, it should say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all 5 days. And they're probably only 50 minutes. But again, I'm guessing.
I'm just going to
you-
stop screen sharing so that we can so I'll just double check that question.
Okay.
So
meanwhile, there's a question out there about how many classes you should take a semester. That's a really great question. No more than 4.5. Sorry, 4.5 units. Depending on the language, if you're taking a language, that could be 3.5 classes, or it could be 4.5. So keep in mind, on the average, 4 units is what you're shooting for. I hope that helps, Letitia. And then Ellie, where on the website do we see what AP score we need to be excused from a class? You can find it on the registrar's website in their policy tab. So registrar.richmond.edu, and in the policy tab, credit by exam policy is the page you're looking for. You should also be able to find that on the New Spiders website. Maybe in the academic planning tab, if my memory serves.
Sorry, I'm just going to pull up that.
That's okay. Any other questions out there?
Sorry, I'm just adding in here the link to the COM2 requirement. So that should be available in the Q&A now. So that's the link immediately to the New Spiders COM2 requirement.
You might have to put it in the chat, Nicole.
Sorry about that. Okay, so that should now be available to the language requirement. And sorry, I'm just gonna pull up back AP scores.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll go back to that question.
If you haven't or weren't able to attend the language webinar from last week, do go back. I don't know that the link or the recording has been uploaded quite yet. If it hasn't, it'll be up there shortly. Please rewatch the language department webinar. Lots of good information was shared last week. So a question here about taking 3 to 4 classes, even if you're Endeavor. Yes, 3 to 4 classes, even if you're Endeavor. Your Endeavor will get you, what do I want to say? You'll be pre-registered for your Endeavor course, whether that's a class or a first-year seminar. Then you'll need to round out the rest of your schedule with 2 more classes or 1 more language class, intensive language course. The difference between a class, a seminar, and an FYS is essentially just the name. An FYS is a class, a seminar is a class, and vice versa. That's a good question.
Okay. Sorry, I too am having the issue with accessing Bannerweb. So
Yeah.
let's just see one more time if I can get in.
Lisa, I'd be happy to email you as soon as this is over with an answer if we can't get into it.
Okay, we'll try one more. I think I may be able to now.
Well, I'll read the other question that's coming in. We may find the answer while you're searching. So is Spanish 151 considered an intensive Spanish class? No. 121 and 221 have intensive in the title. Yes. 151 says Spanish for advanced beginners. Mason's asking because the Business Endeavor program doesn't allow me to take a Spanish intensive fall because you've got 2 business classes. Is that okay? Plus the FYS, wondering if I would be allowed to take in the fall as a freshman in the Endeavor program. Great question, Mason. I would recommend that you email Professor Peebles and ask him that question. And I will put his email address in the Q&A.
And while doing that, I do have the answer just to confirm on the Spanish LAIS 151 of Spanish for Advanced Beginners with drill does meet 5 times a week. So you may see Monday, Wednesday, Friday, a set time that's 50 minutes, and then a Tuesday, Thursday that is 45 minutes.
Okay, so TOEFL scores, for those who have them, international students, you should email those to the Global Studios office. If you'll visit the language link in the academics planning that Dr. Morantonio just sent out, you should see an email address for them that you can submit that score to.
All right. Do you have any other questions?
These were all great questions tonight.
Yes. And please know that if you have any questions, certainly after this webinar ends and they emerge over the next few hours or few days, few weeks, and certainly over the next few months as you finalize your schedules, as you get ready to arrive on campus, please know that you can certainly reach out to our office and we're happy to help and speak with you and want to get to know you. So please share any questions and we are happy to answer. But again, please look out for contact from your peer advisor or navigator this week for that first stage of academic advising. All right. And so with that, thank you again for joining us. We are thrilled to have you to share this time with you and then also look forward to seeing you on campus.
Good night, everybody.
Take care.